Hello.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome to the 8th episode of our podcast.
It's... Whew, boy. I don't want to talk about politics, but I do just want to mention that, we're recording this on Saturday, November 7th, the day of basically the election being called, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, we were trying to think of, light-hearted topics, and then it just evolved into why we want to fight people.
Yeah. So, what would constitute you fighting a person?
So, for context, we were actually talking about this earlier when I came home, and I was telling Cade about how, a customer literally threatened to hit one of my managers at work today, and the conversation just kind of evolved into, what situation do I need to be in I would actually intentionally hurt another person? Because I'm we make jokes about this all the time, that I'm either one of us, full of rage ready to fight a bitch, but realistically, I don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to hit people. That's not a genuine desire of mine. Sometimes you get the urge, somebody's just really pissing you off and you're like, I would love to slap you right now, but you're not actually gonna do it.
No. And actually going through with that, there would be consequences, and they're just not worth it. So your brain just kind of throws that out as okay, we're getting a little overwhelmed. But what would the point be where your brain kind of overrides that and you go, actually, I need to do something about this?
See, and in thinking about it, and we were talking about this earlier while Cade was eating, and then had to be wait, put a pin in that, let's talk about it on the podcast.
Wait, this is actually a good topic.
And I feel for me, it's less even in defense of myself, but more so, if somebody else needs, help.
Yeah.
Or protection. The only time that I can think of off the top of my head where I, reacted to what somebody was doing, physically, was when I was, with one of my mom's friend's kid, and he was a shit, and I was maybe, 12 or 13, I don't remember, and he was a couple years younger than me, and he was chasing my dog around with a stick, and I kept telling him not to fucking touch my dog with that stick, and he wouldn't listen to me and was waving it around and trying to hit her. So I grabbed him by the hair. When he ran by me, I grabbed him by the hair and just threw him on the ground, and then took his stick and threw it in the lake that we were next to. And that's the closest I've ever come to an actual physical fight outside of just fighting my siblings, but that's different.
Yeah, play fighting is different, because that's more you fighting your sibling, but it's not high stakes.
Yeah.
It's more fuck you, just because I'm mad. I don't know. It's a very specific situation. But yeah, I think that would be also my point of contention, is if someone was absolutely belligerent and hurting someone or an animal or something that I could do to step in, then I would. But there's also another situation where if I had pissed somebody off to the point where I would have to defend myself, then I would, I would do what I could to either get away from the situation or have to fight.
And I just I'm thinking about it too in the context of what would somebody have to do that would push me far enough to actually want to hurt them? And not just
they would
in
have
a
to
defensive
do
way?
Something. They would have to do something or say something so absolutely heinous that I would have to step in and, I want to say that my first reaction wouldn't be to just smack them, but it's situational.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of a situation where it would be that would be my reaction. Instead of because I feel the first thing that I can think of when I'm why would I punch somebody in the face, would be in defense of myself or somebody else.
Yeah.
But what kind of situation would you be in where, like, your reaction to something that they are just doing brings you to want to hurt them? If you found out that somebody that you know was, like, an active pedophile, would you fight them?
Maybe.
Like, out of, like, if you just found out, like, you didn't catch them in the act or anything, but, like, you found out that this is a thing, and you also know, like, the child that they've impacted, would you, like, go to this person and fuck them up?
It's hard to say, because, like, I would want to, you know, call the authorities and do the right thing to, like, put said person away to where they couldn't hurt another child, but, like, it's hard to say what your first human instinct would be because, you know, I haven't been in that situation.
Right.
We had a family friend that just, like, didn't know when or what to say at the right times, and he had said multiple things that made me just want to smack him up against the head so many times, and I'm very surprised that I didn't, because this person is just stupid and wanted to start shit. So, like, that would be them getting their way. It's like them, like, people wanting to specifically start something violent.
See, and that's what makes this, like, interesting for me. Just talking about the guy at work today, for example, like, because you know that guy. So, for context, the store that I work at is in a mall, right? So, I'm really just betting that this guy, I mean, he obviously came in looking for a fight because our manager asked him to just put on a mask because A, that's store policy, and B, in the state that I work in, it is mandated by the government. And the dude just, like, went off and threatened to hit him. So, like, you know this person is just coming in looking for a fight. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to bet that he did not only come to our store, that he walked around the mall and started trying to pick fights with employees because he knew that they would tell him to put on a mask. And I'm just so far away from that mentality that I'm like, that's just what makes this interesting for me, because it's like, there are people who literally just want to start a fight for shits and giggles, and right? I'm like, what would I have to, like, where would I have to be to want to fight a person?
That just reminds me of, there's a Whose Line skit where it's like, what would be the best way to start a bar fight? Hey, you guys want to start a fight? That's... That would
words
be
that
fun.
You can like... say that will always start a fight. Hey, you guys want to fight?
That one's so good, though. But yeah, like, fighting and, like, wanting to fight a person, I don't think that would be very likely for me. Wanting to restrain a person...
Yeah.
That is being absolutely belligerent, you know, would be my main goal. Because, like, I don't know if they're, you know, off their meds, if they're having an episode that I don't know of. Like, if they have some sort of disability that causes things like this to happen, I don't know that. And I don't want to, you know, beat the shit out of somebody just because I think that they're, you know, trying to attack me.
Right. I
want to, you know, probably just sit on them so they can't, like, physically hurt anybody. But, right. Like, I feel like genuinely it would have to be reactionary for me.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want... I don't want to hurt anybody.
I mean, and that's how I am, too. It's, like, I feel like my instinct to be, like, violently physical with someone is entirely, like, a protective instinct and not an aggressive one.
Yeah.
I wish we knew some, like... I don't want to sound like... I don't want to put anything on a specific gender, but I wish that we had a guy who we could have on this podcast, because I feel like men are... And again, I'm not, like, trying to make this a negative thing, but I feel like men typically are more outwardly aggressive.
I feel like the men...
And, like... anger, they're quick to anger, and it's not, there's, like, whole psychological reasons that we could go into why that is.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that.
Well, I feel
like
the men that I personally know would have more visceral reactions.
Yeah.
Which is, like, that's fair, honestly. And honestly, I would want somebody to, for certain situations, people need to be, like, yelled at aggressively to get the point across.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I think it's so important for men to step up and defend women and any other parties of sexual assault, because they have that voice, they have that platform to kind of help out, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's needed sometimes.
It's just interesting the difference, and granted, we're just, you know, only 2 women. We obviously can't speak for our entire gender.
Right.
But I feel like, generally speaking, most of the women that I know versus most of the men that I know, like, the number of times that I've heard my dad just, you know, verbally say about somebody who's being annoying, God, I would like to punch that guy in the mouth. And, like, I believe that he would. Not that my dad's out here fighting people, but, like...
It's not, like, far from, like, what he actually wants to do.
Like, I think that I feel like the desire when my dad says something like that is a little bit more genuine than when I say something like that. Because I also say, like, oh, God, I just want to punch that person. But, like, I don't really.
Yeah.
I just
but
want them to shut the fuck up. But you more believe it
with your dad. I have seen a couple of times where my dad has gotten angry, but he's never said that he wanted to hurt anybody. He has just kind of, like, taken it out on random objects.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. Like, my dad has absolutely punched holes in walls before.
Yeah. I remember once my dad...
Your dad's also just not a very verbal person.
That's true. That is very true. I just remember once my dad was, like, having, like, there was a rough situation, and he just, like, broke a like, dustpan and broom in half, and I was like... Okay, I'm gonna leave you to that. Which, like, I will always appreciate. Just, like, I think it's also very interesting that men can just kind of, like, have that outburst, and then they're over it.
Yeah.
Typically, for me, personally, it's, like, I don't get that outburst, and I just kind of, like,
I like
push
simmer.
it inside. Yeah. It's, like... I just sit there and steam for a while.
Yeah. I feel like when I was younger, I used to do that. And this might be a product of me being basically raised as a boy. But, because, like, you think of the typical, like, gamer boy rage quit. Like, throwing shit and screaming. And, like, when I was younger, I used to do that.
Oh. See, I have never done that.
I just was like, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't like that. I also just, like, I feel like when I was younger, basically up until, like, maybe the latter half of high school, I just was an angry person.
Yeah.
Partially probably because of, like, puberty, and also just a lot of suppressed things. But, like, I didn't want to be like that, so I stopped doing that.
Huh.
And now that's just, like, genuinely not a reaction that I have. But it's, like...
That's fair. I wish I could just not... do shit that I hate. Yeah, I remember my brother doing that, and I always just got scared, you know? Because, you know, men typically are bigger than... Well, it's not very hard to be bigger than me, but, like, tiny you know... I am not tiny baby. I will murder you. This is what breaks the camel's back. This is what causes me to fight you. Just short Napoleon syndrome. Immediate rage. Just, no! No big people. But, like, yeah, I would just generally get scared because, like, and I also never understood it because Nick would want all of these new objects and stuff to play with, and then he would break them.
See, I also never broke anything. Because that was also just something that I was aware of.
Yeah.
With, like, you know, game controllers or whatever. Like, I would never throw a PS4 controller.
Yeah. They're so fucking expensive.
Like, those are fucking $80.
Yeah.
But, like, an N64 controller? That shit ain't gonna break.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. They were just made differently.
I also would never throw anything, like, at the TV or whatever. So that's also another, because, like, again, I don't know, maybe that's just it's always been a constant, I don't want to actually hurt anybody or anything, so, because I was, like, aware of that. Anytime I would have a rage moment, I'd, like, hit the ground or whatever, throw a controller at the ground. But
yeah, I definitely get that. There was a famous moment in my family where I think I was just, like, running around the house, just being, feral child, and I threw one of my Barbies at the entertainment center, which our entertainment center was mostly wood, but it also had a nice glass area for our stereo, and I threw it right at the glass, and it didn't break. But, like, that was just, like, a rage moment, and then, my parents, like, what the fuck? You can't do that! But that was, like, the only one that I really remember.
I also just because I think it's interesting when because you've talked about this any number of times that you get scared when men are angry, and I've never experienced that because I have a tremendous ego, and I'm very overconfident. So, like, even though it is 100% untrue, like, if somebody who's, like, 3 times bigger than me is like, I'm gonna fuck you up, I'm like, no. I will win. But, like, so I've never been afraid of, like, my dad or my brothers when they're angry, but when my mom is angry, scared for my life.
Oh, really? Damn.
And part of that is because, going back to my genetics thing, my mom used to have very bad anger problems. I'm gonna call out my mom for a second here, in a story that has been told many times to many people, so she can
deal with it.
One of the scariest moments I remember of my mom when I was younger was, like, so when I was younger, our house was basically the hub for the neighborhood kids, and I remember we had, like, one of those friend families, basically, where, like, our parents were friends, and then there was, like, the kids, we were all generally, there was, like, a partner of roughly the same age.
Right.
And so they would come over to our house all the time, basically would spend the summers there because our house was next to the pool, or a couple blocks away from the pool, which is where we spent all of our time. And when we weren't at the pool, we were at our house, or whatever.
Right.
And we were all in swim team, and so we'd go to swim team practice in the mornings, and then there'd be a couple hours before open swim. So we'd go back to our house and dick around, whatever. And the boys would always make a fucking mess in the kitchen because they were hungry boys, and children are messy. And I just remember my mom coming home one day, and Sam and Brad had made, like, frozen pizza or whatever, and then left a bunch of shit all over the kitchen, and there was, like, dishes all over coming in the sink and whatever. And my mom came home and was just, like, livid at the state of the kitchen, and just starts screaming and yelling, and picks up the dishes and just threw them at my brother.
Oh my god!
And, like, chased him out the back door and was just, like, throwing dishes. And then when she ran out of dishes, she screamed at him, "You better clean this shit up!" Because there's, like, dishes broken all over the back porch now.
Oh
and the kitchen. And then I'm just standing there like, oh my god. And then I just remember my mom turning around and looking at me, and I'm, like, crying because I'm afraid. And she was like, "Get the hell away from me!" and just, like, stormed off. And I'm just like, oh my god.
Jesus. Yeah, no wonder.
Yeah. So, like, I don't have that, like, fear of men because I'm like, I could take them. But, like, you tell me my mom's coming to beat my ass, I'm like,
God.
I gotta get out of here.
I have to flee the country.
I gotta go.
Yeah. Growing up, it was never my mom my mom just got sad or disappointed when things happened, because she was always the mediator, really, like, between my brother and my dad. Yeah, she was always just kind of, like, in the middle of it, and she wanted to help that relationship a lot. But I can't really remember a time when she was, like, furious. She's never, like, thrown things, or she's just, sweet lady. I don't think she would, like, do that. But, yeah, my brother would have full-on tantrums, and my dad would throw things, and it's kind of funny now looking back on it, but when my dad would get upset and when he would yell, he had a very specific voice because he is a quiet man, so you just kind of, like, don't expect it as much. And so when he gets loud, it's very scary. It is. And there was only 2 occasions that I could think of him actually actively being scary, and it was in my defense. So, I'm gonna tell this story because it's relevant. I must have been like 6 or 7, but I was, playing with the neighborhood kids, and we were walking down the street. I think we were heading back home after we were playing on the Greenway for a while. We were heading back home, and this, like, group of teenagers, like, the typical, like, early 2000s, like, teenagers. And I don't know if they were that much older, but they were on the opposite side of the road, on the opposite side of the sidewalk, and while we were in passing, they said something, like, real nasty to us young girls. And it was like a group of boys. So, we're not far from home. I run home crying because they said something horrifying to me. And I ran home crying, and I think my mom was there, and my mom, is trying to figure out what the hell happened. I'm just sobbing. I don't remember what they said specifically, but it was, like, nasty in a sexual way. So my dad, once they got me to, like, calm down a little bit and tell them what happened, my dad loaded me up into the truck. We had this ugly fucking truck. We literally called it the Big Ugly. And he loaded me up into the truck, and he was like, all right, let's go find them. And he found that group of boys and just, like, berated them the whole time. I'm just, like, sitting in the truck like, oh, man. Oh, no. But he just, like, I think it was just immediate reaction, like, this is not okay. Absolutely not. It was very scary as a kid to see that, but I didn't really understand why he was so angry about it. But now I really understand.
Yeah.
Because if some stupid teenager said that to my tiny, tiny child, said something sexual and awful like that, then I would absolutely go off the rails, probably.
Yeah.
I wouldn't beat the shit out of a couple of teenagers, but, like, I would absolutely go find them and give them a talking to at least.
Now, to twist the situation a little bit, just to kind of, like, bring it full circle, if they were adults and you were the parent, would you, like, physically fight them?
If they said something sexual to my child, and my child, like, blatantly said that, then yes, I would probably. I want to say that, no, I would have a totally rational thought, and I would never, ever, ever do that, but I probably would. Mm-hmm. Because that's the thing, it's kind of like just a human visceral reaction is to defend your family. Yeah. And defend those who don't have that defense on their own.
For me, I feel like in that situation it would be less, my immediate instinct wouldn't be to act on physical violence, but it would be to intimidate. I ain't never gonna have kids.
Right.
Fucking hope to God I never have fucking kids. But, like, if one of you guys had kids,
right,
and that was a situation, and I heard about it, you can bet your ass I'd be on my way with a sword to somebody's house to show up and just be the fucking sword lesbian aunt who's just like, what'd you say? What'd you say to this fucking child?
Excuse me?
Let me just unsheath this real quick. Hello?
Just like with a bat, like, excuse me.
Like if
I heard you had some words.
I don't think I would instigate the fight. I would just show up to be like,
excuse me? This is a problem.
I'd be making threats.
Yeah, I think that's valid. But I think that
if I was, like, there when it happened, like, if I saw, like, an adult come up to a child and, like, say some nasty shit, then I might react physically.
Yeah.
But if it was a situation like yours where, like, the kid came home crying and then I had to go find these people,
yeah,
I don't think... Because that would give me too much time to think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would cool down a little bit. But if it was, like, an immediate, like, I saw this happen, I would probably wrench this person away from the child.
Right. Do whatever you could to, like, separate.
I'm going to grab you by the hair and throw you on the ground situation.
Yeah. Just like any situation like that, I think there are many situations that would absolutely fill me with rage, but not many situations that would cause me to act upon that.
Right. Like, I don't think there are a lot of things that would have me reacting violently.
Yeah. Another situation that I'm now, like, thinking of, like, predatory situations where the action is actually happening, that would probably cause me to, like, act violently.
See, and now I'm just thinking about, because your story made me remember, do you remember when we were in, like, middle school? And I don't remember, it was you, me, and Emily, and a couple other people, but I don't remember who. We were having a sleepover here, and we, like, late at night had gone and walked over to the playground, and we were hanging out. And on the way back, and it was, like,
it was
unreasonably late.
Yeah, it was
we were
pretty
out
late.
for a long time.
For a bunch of, like, teenage girls, it was pretty late. I think like Megan was with us, too.
Yeah.
And
I think so. And maybe AJ, but I don't remember who all was there. But I know it was the three of us and then a couple other people, but I don't remember who it was. But anyway, that's not the point. So we're walking home, and it was literally, like, midnight or 1 in the morning.
Yeah, it was
really late. And we were walking home along a busy street, and a bunch of teenagers, like, older teenagers, in a truck, of course, because they're always in a truck, were, like, yelling profanities at us as we were walking home, and, like, I remember... And this is, like, my I'm not afraid of men, and B, protective reaction, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because I remember them yelling shit at us, and we just reacted accordingly, and we're like, oh, fuck you, whatever. But then they stopped and, like, backed up.
Yeah.
And you guys got scared, and I was like, I'm ready to fight.
Yeah, you were like, so we were on the sidewalk, and they, like, backed up and were, like, getting closer to us, but like, it almost came to that, but, like, they weren't right beside us.
Yeah.
But they just, like, yelling profanities and shit. And Emily and I just kind of, like, go to the inside of the sidewalk, like, to separate, and you were like, try me! Yeah.
I will fuck you up, bitch.
Yeah, that's another, like, in defense of my friends, absolutely.
Yeah. That's how I'm feral.
I think you get the award for most feral. I want to be that feral.
I feel like we can rank our friend group. Like, I'm, like, at the top, and you used to be less feral, and I made you more feral. Like, I think you've always been a little feral, but when I moved in, it just, like,
I think you like, brought back the feral.
And then Bree's feral, but only in enclosed spaces.
Yeah.
Like, not enclosed spaces, like, not public spaces. Like, if we go to the store or something, or we're, like, in a public space, I will continue to be feral, but, like, the rest of you are like, not gonna do things that draw attention.
I will do some things, not all of the things. Because I don't want people to look at me. I just... Do not perceive me. I did not give you permission. Don't look at me.
See, I have this weird, like, I also don't want anybody to look at me, but also look at me. Like, I'm the fourth child and I want all the attention, but also I don't want you to acknowledge that you're giving me attention.
I don't want any attention. Don't at all. Leave me alone.
Like, I don't want direct attention, but I do want you to go home and tell your friends about what you saw me do.
Okay, I get that. Yeah, I do some things. Like, I'll have sword fights with you in Walmart and shit, but, like...
Along those lines, I think it's so funny that anytime I'm at a store with Emily and I pick up anything that could resemble a sword, she immediately runs away from me. Like, if I let go to touch anything, like an umbrella or a Nerf sword or like any stick-shaped thing, she's like in the next aisle before I've even got my hands on it. Like,
she's such like... Emily could be described as a very tired mom.
Emily's just, like, not feral at all.
No, she just, like, wasn't brought up in a feral way.
Sometimes she'll say things that sound feral.
Right.
And I think that's our fault.
Yeah. Our influence. Although I wouldn't discount it. Like, she could do some feral shit if brought to it. We just gotta... I think she's not nihilistic enough. We are very nihilistic. Nothing matters.
Yeah.
Talking too much.
Too many words. I haven't used this many words out loud in so long. Speaking of... This is totally off topic, but speaking of words... using words out loud. I saw a TikTok the other day that was, like, pointing out that apparently not everybody has, like, a little voice in their head that says their thoughts.
What do they do? They think.
They think in, like, feelings or images.
Oh.
Or, like, and the idea was basically that, like, thinking in words is too slow, so they think faster in, like, images or like concepts.
That's why I'm so fucking slow.
And like I got into thinking about it because it was like the way that they pointed it out in the TikTok was like the TikTok was just silent and it was like the girl pointing up at, you know, the text. And I don't remember what exactly it said, but it was something along the lines of like, are you saying these words in your head right now or something like that. And then she was like, if you are, because apparently, and I don't know how true this is necessarily, like, the ratio, but apparently fewer people think in actual words. Which is weird. Because, like, I looked in the comments, too, and everybody was like, what?
Excuse me?
What? But it was, like, the way that it was pointed out, because I don't know that I always think in words, but I definitely think all of the words that I'm reading. And that was what was pointing it out, that not everybody, like, when you read a sentence, not everybody is actually, like, thinking those words. They're just comprehending them. And I'm like, what?
I don't even, like, I don't comprehend. So, like, I wouldn't even be able to figure it out because I'm fucking illiterate.
But I'm like, because I can't really... Like, I guess at a glance, sometimes, like, you know, you see a word and you know what it is when you're not, like, actually trying to read it, I guess. Like, when you see, you know, a sign or something. Like, you see, you know, a Wendy's sign and you know what that is.
Yeah.
But, like, if I'm, like, reading, you know, text on a page, I don't think I could not say the words and comprehend what I'm reading.
Say the words?
Like think the words. Say them in my head, I guess.
Oh. I just, like,
I can't just have, like, silence in my brain and then comprehend what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no.
The closest thing, because I just kept thinking about it, the closest thing that I feel like I have to that is the ability to continue singing a song that I'm listening to while I'm typing in a product number on a thing at work.
Multitask. Yeah, no, I think I also, like, read like that.
But I don't know that I'm, like, always thinking in words.
No, I don't think I am either. Because, like, sometimes I'll think, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, specifically...
And, like, I'll have, like, elaborate conversations with myself in my head.
Right.
But I also feel like I probably skip a lot of words.
Yeah.
Because I already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting that, like, it never occurred to me that people just, like, did not think in words ever. Like, that's so wild to me. Like, you don't just have a little voice in your head.
Yeah, I feel like it's a mix for me, because, like, sometimes I think in images, like, if I'm, like, restless or whatever, or, like, I'm out of water, I won't think that I'm out of water, like, at my desk.
Right.
I'll just be like, go refill it.
Right.
That's, you know, I have an image in my head of walking to the fridge and filling it up. I won't say, oh, I need to fill that up. That is really weird, though.
And, like, I've never really analyzed, like, how I think.
Yeah.
And, like, how it works. Until it was presented to me. And I'm like...
Excuse me?
What?
It's like, I've seen so many, like, ADHD TikToks. Like, you sent me one the other day, and I was like, oh, no.
I know. The one that was like, ADHD people either need to stop being so relatable or I need to go to the doctor.
Yeah, right?
Because I was like having... And here's the thing, is I feel like I've just seen so many ADHD, you know, posts and videos and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's relatable. But I don't feel like I have ADHD. But, like...
It's just, like, it's hard to discern what's real symptoms of ADHD.
Yeah.
And
or, like,
what's just, like, other bullshit.
Yeah, like, is this because of ADHD, or is this because of, like, anxiety, or is it because of depression, or, like...
Self-diagnosis is not great.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and you're not really supposed to do that, but, like...
No.
Like, I was trying to write the other night, and, of course, couldn't stop thinking about the election, and then was, like, looking at memes, and I just, like, could not focus, and I would, like... type a sentence and then, like, pick up my phone and be distracted all over the place. And so I was just like, is this what ADHD is? Or is this just, like, general anxiety that's causing this? And, like, I went down the rabbit hole on Google. I was looking up something else, and then I ended up taking a fucking, like, just stupid quiz that's like, do you have ADHD? And the result I got was basically, like, this isn't a diagnosis, but you should probably go to a doctor. It's like, sick. You know who doesn't have money for that? Me. I barely have insurance.
For now.
I have insurance for a year.
Yay.
Unless your boy can start changing shit. Who knows? I don't want to talk about politics on here.
It's just, like, at the forefront, so it's hard. But... yeah,
that's also, like, usually we record podcasts a week in advance, so we should have recorded this podcast last weekend, but it was Halloween, so we didn't, and then everything became about the election, so we just, neither one of us could focus on anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just weird to think about.
It's weird to think that a lot of people think like you, and a lot of people don't process things like you.
Yeah. It's just, like, weird when because you don't think about it, really.
Yeah.
But then it's presented to you, and you're like, wait, there's a different way?
Yeah. It's like, hold on. This wasn't just, like, there are certain things that you think are universal.
Yeah.
Like, just certain mechanisms of being human that you're like, alright, everybody does this, right? And then you're like, not everybody does that. What's wrong with me?
Right? Well, and then some things you find out that, like, are not universal, that are common with, like, your circle, but then are not universal, and you're like, wait, we're fucked up? Okay.
Right.
You mean this isn't normal? My brain's not supposed to do that? Or, okay. Good to know.
Every time I make a suicide joke at my family.
Right?
Like, oh, sorry.
Just like, oh god. Anytime I like forget who I'm talking to and I can't just like say shit like that.
Right.
Like, I showed you guys a screenshot of like, the other day I was on my way to work and for whatever reason they were pulling some bullshit on the interstate, and so it took me 2 hours to make a 1 hour drive, and I was sitting just in traffic forever. And one of my managers texted me to, like, figure out what was going on. And I just, was like, yeah, I'm stuck in traffic. I'll be there whenever things start moving again. And she was like, she said something along the lines of, glad to know you're alive. And I just went, can't relate. Because that's, like, my automatic reaction to that. And she just, like, sent me a bunch of shocked emojis.
I saw that
Oops.
Whoopsie. Just, like, the opportunity to make, like, self-deprecating or, like... Are they, like, suicidal jokes? I guess they are.
I just lump it all in as, like, depressing or self-deprecating, I guess.
Yeah, because, like... I don't know. But, yeah, it's just, like... It's something that is part of, like, our generation.
Right.
So... like, people my age will be like, hey!
Right.
Meanwhile, people who aren't my age, or, like, even my brother will be like, what the fuck?
Right.
What?
See, and it's interesting because it's like, I can't make those jokes to my brothers, but I do know people who are older than they are who share the same sense of humor.
Oh, really?
Who, like, I feel like it's anybody who can fit in the millennial category, but there's, like, more... mature millennials, or like, I don't know, versus like people on our end. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's not just like an age thing. Maybe it's also just like a depression sort of thing. Like,
yeah,
it's a way to cope.
Like, I feel like just because statistically depression, anxiety have just like skyrocketed in like basically the millennial generation. Like, every generation has had cases of depression and whatever. It's not like it just popped out of nowhere, like it's just an us thing. But because of the state of the world as we are growing up,
yeah,
it's gotten so much worse for our generation and the following generations. But it doesn't necessarily hit everybody. But because it's so common for us and people our age, it just, like, got to be one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, we just talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
And it just became, like, normalized. Just like it's normal to talk about, like, being horny and, like,
yeah.
watching porn. But that's, like, for our parents, that's, like, not something you just talk about all the time.
Right. Or even, like, with your friends, you don't, like... I get not talking about it just, like, regularly, but, like, in your, like, age group, your friend group, you're like, yeah, this is fine. But, yeah, it's very weird to think of, like, the certain circles we run into, because sometimes I'm around you guys so much that I'm like, the whole world is gay. And then, like, I go outside.
Right.
And not the whole world is gay.
No. I do the same thing. I get so used to the way that I talk within our circle that then I go to work and I say things and I'm like, oh, that's not normal.
That's not.
Like, the number of times that I just, like, will be talking to, like, one of my coworkers and just, like, something, like, I was talking with one of my coworkers about the last Avatar series, and for some reason we were talking about May, who's Zuko's gloomy girlfriend, and the person I was talking to was like, when I was younger I didn't really like her because she's just so depressing all the time. And I just was like, again, my first reaction was like, I always liked her because I'm so fucking gay. Just, like, saying that to just, like, saying things like that to the straights. They don't know how to respond. Get it. Like, I say something like that to you and you're like, yeah, I get it. Fair. I'm also super gay. But then you say that to a straight person and they're like, okay. I didn't know that could be a reason for something.
Yeah, I had the same reaction because we're not gonna get into politics, but when I went to vote on the 3rd, we ran into my uncle and he kind of like helped us through going through everything. And we were kind of stopping to chat because my mom needed a little break, and we were talking about Disney and movies and stuff, and I was like, we were talking about The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2, and he was like, yeah, I didn't really like The Incredibles 2, and I was like, oh man, I loved The Incredibles 2. Maybe it's just because I'm fucking gay. And he was like, you're not gay? Like, okay, Uncle Tom, you think whatever you want to.
That's cute. But I'm so gay.
My mom was just sitting there like, I'm so tired. I'm just like... And also, like, neither of them got it, like, the reason why I would like Incredibles 2. And so I had to explain it.
It's the Pixar mom thighs.
It's the Pixar mom thighs, and also the villain.
Oh, yeah.
Like...
Yeah.
She's coded gay.
All villains are.
Villains are gay.
I saw a post the other day that made me giggle, and it was like, maybe somebody might have sent it in the group chat.
I sent it to
was
you,
it? Yeah.
I think so.
Where it was like...
Surprise Pikachu one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was like... Animators, we're gonna code all of the villains so that, like, as gay, so the kids will know
that it's
that's
bad.
wrong.
It's bad to be gay.
Gay kids grow up idolizing and sexualizing villains.
Hollywood, surprise Pikachu face. Oh no.
Like, just really? But, like, really, think of a villain that you weren't like, ooh.
Captain Hook. Not a fan.
Okay. In the Disney movie, sure, but I'm sure that there's live action shows
like
and
One
shit
Upon
where,
a Time, Captain Hook?
Yeah.
Could get it.
Like, I've never watched it, but you know.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
And now we're just circling back to last week's episode where we're just gonna be horny.
Listen, I don't have any more depression juice, so it has to switch to horny juice. I have to run on something here. Out of anxiety. Out of depression.
That feel when you just fueled by being horny.
I mean, yeah. Well, it's also No Nut November. Good luck, everybody. I already lost.
I was talking to Nat about this the other day because he was talking about it in the group chat, and then he was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna...
Speaking of the group chat.
Like, he made a joke that, like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it backwards and I'm gonna nut every day.
Oh, no!
And so we just... Sorry, Nat, for calling you out.
Get wrecked.
He'll probably just get excited that we talked about him. But I was like, oh, my battery.
No.
That's the sign that we've been talking for too long. My battery decides to
fuck off.
But like, we just got down the rabbit hole of talking about it. Like, I would never be able to, first of all. But doesn't, like, No Nut November doesn't make sense to me because it's, like, about prostate cancer and, like, testicular cancer. So, like, I get it, but, like, the camaraderie of it. But, like...
Isn't that, like,
masturbating is good for for you. And it helps prevent those things. So, like, not doing it for a month seems counterproductive.
Yeah.
No shave November makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah. I just think November is funny for the memes.
It is funny for the memes. I wonder if anybody has, like, actually ever succeeded.
I bet a lot of women have. I don't know about men. Like, yeah, no, I don't. I don't know about
I can't
men.
even go, like, a week.
Really? Dude, I had several months, and it's probably due to, like, I was fucking with my depression medication again, so it, like, threw me off, and I just, like, was absolutely apathetic about it. So I was like, for, like, 2 months. So...
Yeah. See, like, when I say I'm horny all the time, I literally mean I'm horny all the time.
I could
like,
not...
my libido needs to shut the fuck up, honestly.
I don't know if I could do it every week. Maybe I just go, like, I go too hard when I do. So I'm like, maybe I need to, like, pace myself.
See, like, honestly, sometimes it's several times a day. I'm just
What?
like, yeah.
No!
Yeah.
I have never. Oh my god.
Frequently.
You are the sun. I don't have enough energy to do it more than once. Like, mine is more like build up and then just, like, go ham. So I can't.
See, I get
can't
that,
do
but
it.
just the build up happens really fast. That's why I told you, if I was, like, dating somebody whose libido matched mine, we would literally never get anything done. We would just only be fucking.
Just fly into the sun. Become supernova. Becoming.
This is just devolving. I think we need to stop.
For the sake of all mankind, goodbye.